They use their bulk to intimidate rivals and win mates. But females aren't pushovers. They will fight off intruding females or defend their chicks with just as much ferocity. In some colonies, you'll see back-to-back battles break out as males clash for territory and females protect the home front. Still, as combative as storks can be, they are also strategic. They choose their fights. Fights are rarely to the death. Most are about dominance, territory, or access to resources. Once one bird backs down, the winner doesn't press the advantage. It's a show of power, not an act of destruction. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about stork conflict is how it reflects their adaptability. Storks have learned to survive in a changing world where nesting sites are disappearing and wetlands are drying up. These birds are far more complex than their peaceful reputation suggests, whether they are fighting with rivals, repelling predators, or protecting their young. So the next time you see a stork standing motionless in the water, know this: beneath that calm exterior is a creature ready to fight if it must. The stork is tall, quiet, and powerful. It doesn't waste energy, but when it is pushed, it strikes with elegance and force. During the breeding season, when two black storks meet, they frequently engage and display behaviors such as posturing and threatening each other, but they rarely fight. Their avoidance of conflict is a survival strategy. Their strength is their isolation. Then you have the wood stork, the only stork species native to the United States. Found mostly in Florida, Georgia, and the Gulf Coast, wood storks are surprisingly social but also fiercely protective of their colonies. During nesting season, hundreds of pairs gather in dense groups in the tops of cypress trees or mangroves. Due to the close proximity, fights are inevitable. Males will defend their nesting tree against any intruders, especially other males trying to steal nesting material or mates. Battles here are fast and brutal. Sharp pecks, bill slaps, and rapid body shoves are all part of the game. The wood stork is usually silent, but when it is protecting its territory, it moves with force and precision. In Asia, the painted stork brings beauty to the stork family with its vibrant pink plumage and golden bill. These birds nest in large colonies too, and while they're less aggressive than wood storks, competition can still erupt. There are fights not only between painted storks and other water birds like ibises and herons during India's dry season, when food is scarce and nesting sites are scarce. Most of the time, these battles look more like aerial duels, with birds trying to outposition one another above a disputed location by rising into the air and flapping their wings wildly. But it's not always stork versus stork. They sometimes have to fight off other predators or invasive birds. Over a meal, marabou storks in Africa will compete with hyenas or monitor lizards. White storks in Europe often deal with predatory raptors trying to snatch their chicks. Storks do not retreat at those times. They are able to repel attackers who would scatter smaller birds with powerful beak jabs and aggressive wing displays. Rivalry between siblings is one of the most intense forms of conflict in the world of storks. That is correct. Occasionally, the nest is the scene of the bloodiest conflicts. In times of food shortage, the strongest chick may peck its weaker siblings, pushing them aside, or even out of the nest, to ensure its own survival. This behavior, known as siblicide, is brutal but not uncommon in the bird world. For storks, it's nature's way of adapting to unpredictable food supplies. It's not fair, but it works. In terms of physical characteristics, each species has its own advantage. The saddle-billed stork, for example, has one of the most powerful bills in the stork family, long, red and black, shaped like a spear. It uses this weapon with surgical precision to spear fish, frogs, or even small reptiles. That bill becomes a weapon of war when threatened. Other storks, like the Asian lesser adjutant, have shorter tempers and bulkier builds, giving them an advantage in close quarters. Storks and babies? The shocking origins of the world's most famous myth. The stork might just be the most legendary bird in the world. Ask someone anywhere on Earth to name a bird associated with folklore, and chances are they'll say the stork. It's not because they're the most colorful or the most vocal. It's not because they do acrobatics in the sky or sing beautiful songs. It's because storks carry something even more powerful than spectacle: stories. For centuries, across cultures and continents, storks have been tied to mystery, luck, fertility, and above all else, birth. The idea that a giant bird drops babies down chimneys or at the doorstep in the middle of the night may sound silly in today's world, but that myth is woven deep into the cultural fabric of the Western world. And it's not just about babies. The stork has been seen as everything from a protector of souls to a symbol of divine timing, and the stories surrounding them are as fascinating as the birds themselves. Let's start with the most famous myth of all, the baby-carrying stork. This image is so widely recognized that it's practically a marketing symbol, showing up on greeting cards, baby shower invites, nursery murals, and cartoons. But where did it originate? The roots of the baby myth trace back to Northern Europe, particularly Germany and the Netherlands. In old rural villages, white storks would return every spring, nesting on rooftops and chimneys after migrating south for the winter. Their arrival signaled renewal, warmth, and new life. Around the same time, families often welcomed new babies, conceived during long winter nights and born in the spring or summer months. Over time, people began associating the two events. It was easier, perhaps more poetic, to say the stork brought the child rather than explain how babies actually came to be. This myth became even more entrenched when the famous Hans Christian Andersen story, The Storks, was published in the 19th century. In it, storks deliver babies to deserving households, while those who misbehave are left behind. The story combined fantasy, morality, and a touch of whimsy, planting the stork firmly into the Western imagination. Storks were revered in ancient mythology as well. In Greek legends, the stork was a sacred creature often associated with transformation. One story tells of a woman named Joanna who was turned into a stork by the gods, punished for boasting that she was more beautiful than Hera. Some versions say she was cursed to fly endlessly, searching for her child. That may have added to the belief that storks were baby seekers, flying from home to home, cradling infants in their beaks. The Romans, on the other hand, admired storks for their loyalty and family values. Pietas, which means piety or devotion in Latin, was derived from their belief that storks mated for life and cared for their aging parents. Roman families would point to storks as symbols of filial duty, urging their children to be just as loyal to their elders. Fast forward to medieval Europe, where storks were seen as divine messengers. Because they lived on rooftops and chimneys, they seemed halfway between heaven and earth. People believed they brought luck and blessings. Killing a stork, or disturbing a nest, was thought to bring misfortune to the entire village. In fact, some households built platforms to encourage stork nesting, believing it would protect their home from fire, sickness, or poverty. In Slavic mythology, the stork was more than just a bringer of life, it was a guardian of the soul. Some Eastern European legends claimed that human souls waited in limbo, floating over the land in search of the right family. When the time was right, the stork would swoop down from the sky and deliver the soul to its destined home. In this view, storks weren't just delivery birds, they were gatekeepers of destiny. Even in parts of Africa, where the marabou stork reigns large and eerie, the bird has spiritual significance. While it's not always associated with positivity, it feeds on carrion and can look rather ghastly. Some African tribes view the marabou as a cleansing creature, removing disease,